This is Emily Turner for Fox Sports Next, Scout.com, and BearTerritory.net. Here with BearTerritory.net's publisher Ryan Gorcey. We're here at California Memorial Stadium where the Arizona Wildcats defeated the California Golden Bears 33-28. Ryan, Jared Goff today looked a lot less timid and more mature. How do you think his performance was today?
Well, there were good moments and bad moments. I think Jared overall was pretty good. He started off the game 8 for 10 on Cal's opening scoring drive, the first time they've taken a lead over a football bowl division opponent since Northwestern, since the opening game of the year, the first time they've had a lead since the second week of the year, and it was the first time since that first weekend that Cal scored on its first possession. So really good at the start, and then he went 0 for 8. And then he had 2 drop balls and 2 tipped passes. So there was a little bit of a funny stretch there, and then he came back and went 13 for 17. Unfortunately, that 13 for 17 streak was stopped when he threw picks on 2 straight series late in the game. One of them cost Cal a touchdown, and the other one scored a touchdown for Arizona. It may not have been a pick 6, but it gave the defense a short field, and Arizona was able to convert. That's 14 points off the board for Cal and 14 points effectively on the board for Arizona, and that obviously 5 points wound up being the difference in this game, so that was big. Jared Goff, though, also had a lot of help with Kenny Lawler, the redshirt freshman. Bryce Tregg's father, told me at the beginning of the season, watch out for Kenny Lawler, watch out for K-Law. He's going to make people miss. He's going to be really impressive, and boy, was he. 3 touchdown catches, including the first of his career, and 2 just bonkers, ridiculous, stupid circus catches that he made. One of them right over here, leaping grab going up the ladder for a touchdown, and then of course his second touchdown catch was a one-hander. Asked Jared Goff about that after the game, and I asked him to compare that with Maurice Harris's one-handed touchdown earlier in the season, and I got about a bunch of Kenny Lawler was sitting right next to him. So he couldn't really say which one he thought was better, but it's a tough choice.
Kenny Lawler also had a pretty historical game, scoring 3 touchdowns, being the first Cal receiver to score that many since Deshaun Jackson in 2006. Now, staying on offense, though, Daniel Lasco was back in the game today after an injury that had him out for the past 2 games. How do you think he played today?
Really impressed. Really, Daniel Lasco gave the Bears that downhill running threat that they just flat out haven't had. Darren Irvin's been serviceable, but Lasco really adds that speed and a little bit of Texas toughness. Not that Irvin didn't, being from Houston as well, but Daniel Lasco really, he came in with about 6.5 minutes left in the first quarter and really came alive and really energized the Cal offense. The running game finally looked like it had a pulse, a regular pulse, not just a fourth quarter. We're going to let Khalfani Muhammad score a 73-yard touchdown in garbage time pulse. 71 yards for Daniel Lasco on 12 carries, so really good yards per carry. Again, finally the run game looked like it had at least a little juice to it. And that certainly helped, considering they had to keep pace with Kadeem Carey on the other side of the ball, but we'll talk about that in a little bit.
Let's talk about Kadeem Carey now. How do you think Cal defended him today?
Well, Hardy Nickerson after the game said the plan was to stop him. Good plan. He gained 152 yards, averaged about 4.8 yards per carry, which is below his season average, which is not bad. The fact that Cal was able to contain him to only, I believe, 33 yards in the first quarter when he'd been averaging 188 per game, hey, that's great. Granted, Kadeem Carey did break off a few runs later, but the yards that he did get were very hard. He didn't really get any easy yards. Occasionally, maybe on the edge when contained broke a little bit, but he had to fight for really every yard, and that's something that Cal defense can really hang their hat on from this game, is that they did a really good job against a really tough runner after getting gashed last week by Bishop Sankey up in Washington, and you look at the linebackers, and I have the numbers here. Really, it was the secondary that really did a lot of the yeoman's work. Cameron Walker, boy, did he have a game. 13 tackles for the 4th straight game, set a career high in tackles, and he's tied the season high for tackles by a Cal defender with 13, which Kyrie Fort did way back, I believe, against Ohio State. So, that was a big, you had Cameron Jackson with 8 stops and I believe 2 breakups. The secondary was fantastic. They kind of came down in run support. You saw a lot of that with Cameron Walker, particularly on some of the short screens. You saw safety and corner blitzes. So that was really something that the Cal defense, again, they only played 15 guys on defense, which is kind of a good thing, kind of a bad thing. Bad in the sense that, boy, you don't want them to get tired, but good in the sense that they now have enough faith in those same 15 guys that they can put them out there consistently and get some kind of performances. The defensive line, the front 7, is really the next thing I want to get to, because you have Viliami Mwala and Hardy Nickerson really kind of leading the charge. Whenever a defensive tackle has a lot of stops, and Viliami Mwala today had 7, including half a sack, that's ridiculously big. Star Lotulelei from Utah last year, a guy who everybody in the conference feared, but a guy who really didn't put up a lot of gaudy numbers. You didn't see a lot of 7, 8, 9, 10 tackles a game out of him, but he was still a really terrifying defender as far as a run game is concerned. Mwala proved that, yes, he is exactly that. He's finally kind of proven all the hype that he came in with back in 2011. Hardy Nickerson probably had his best day as a Bear. People have been looking at him going, he's too slow, he's too small, he's got great instincts, but he doesn't have the athleticism. Well, today Hardy Nickerson proved them wrong, had one of his best games. So the defensive line really had one of their best games. The secondary came in and run support. The linebackers, really the Cal defense as a whole, yeah, they gave up a lot of yards, but they also held Arizona to below season average of what Cal's been giving up. Really a huge step forward for the defense.
Cedric Dozier had his first career start as a cornerback opposite Cameron Jackson. How do you think he performed tonight?
Well, 5 tackles, pretty solid night. The thing with a corner is you don't want to hear your name called a lot, because that means that you were the defender on a play that went for a lot of yards, and that didn't happen today with Cedric Dozier. He was very solid. We've seen a lot of turmoil and tumult at that spot since Stephen McClure went down, that spot opposite Cameron Jackson. We've seen Adrian Lee, we've seen Isaac Lapite get burned a few times, we've seen Joel Willis, we've seen so many guys try to take over that spot, and no one's really done it. Maybe Cedric Dozier did a little bit today. He looked very good in coverage, didn't just keep his eyes on the receiver, did look back and see the ball a few times, so was able to make plays. Even though he didn't register any breakups, he really was very impressive, and I think maybe Cal has found that spot for the remainder of the season, of course, with Colorado, USC, and Stanford coming up.
Well, that's it from Memorial Stadium. This has been The Breakdown. I'm Emily Turner, here with Ryan Gorcey of Fox Sports Next, Scout.com, and BearTerritory.net.